Marco? Marco? Tout le monde est là? Ah, ok. Let's go. Mesdames, Messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome in Strasbourg. Thank you for being here again for the fourth edition of the NDDCamp Strasbourg. We are very happy and very proud to see you today, and thank you to all the speakers and people, attendees who are coming from outside Alsace or outside France. Few words before to give the mic to Aymeric Chagnas from the bank, who will welcome you. It's the fourth edition, and without we would like to thank our sponsor, because without them we could not organize such an event. So they are all here: CSC, Afnic, Dreyfus, CAHN, IT.com, NetTeam, Brand Shelter, LWS, Planet Hoster, Gandi, Novagraph, Solid Name, Placero, Domain Crawler, Ineolab, Dot Market. Some of them are new this year, so thank you for your trust. So just some words about, you can bring some water inside this, in this room, but please no food and no coffee or tea. And during the day we will have some coffee breaks, a lunch on the main entrance, and at the end of the day we'll have after work with local food and craft beers, so enjoy. For tonight, I don't know if some of you are staying in Strasbourg. Enjoy the city. Bars and restaurants are open after 6 p.m. That was for the ICANNers who were in Seattle, and was not so easy to find a way to eat on the night. So enjoy the city. The weather is with us, so that's nice. Thank you, Aymeric. Please, please, maybe we could applaud the bank, CIC, that welcome us for the fourth edition. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. So I'm not Dominique Bellemare, our CEO. I'm just on behalf. I'm Aymeric Chagnas. I'm in charge of the team for the payment solutions for CIC Est. So just I'm not going to be long, 2 or 3 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, ICANN and Afnic representatives, welcome to this new edition of NDDCamp Alsace, which is taking place for the fourth time in the east of France, here in our beautiful city of Strasbourg. It's a great pleasure to see you here today, coming from so many different backgrounds to discuss, learn, and share about digital technology and domain names. We know how strategic these issues are in an increasingly connected world. Domain names are not just a simple address on the web. They are the foundation of our digital identity, the key to our visibility, and a major issue for innovation and cybersecurity. Throughout the day, you'll have the opportunity to attend cutting-edge conferences, enriching workshops, and unique opportunities to exchange ideas with experts and passionate professionals. Whether you are a registrar, an entrepreneur, an SEO expert, a lawyer, a developer, or simply curious about this topic, we hope that this NDD camp will provide you with practical knowledge, new perspectives, and inspiring encounters. Our warmest thanks to Benjamin Louis, David, merci. David Shelley, I think he's still in the main entrance. And last but not least, Marc-Olivier Bernard, for organizing this event here in CICEST. I would also like to thank Yves. He is in my team. Yves, please. I want to thank you for your involvement in the topic, for this great organization. And I think you have some words to say. Thank you, Yves.
Good morning. So I'm not so good as Emmerich to explain my English. My level is Brian is in kitchen, so I will improve your French. So you have your IA, so you can read what I say to French. Thank you for that. Donc c'est un plaisir de vous accueillir toutes et tous dans nos locaux. Je suis certain que nos partenaires et intervenants vous apporteront des informations nouvelles, engageantes et positives. Tous ces ingrédients qui feront de cet événement un succès. Alors, profitez pleinement de cette journée. N'hésitez pas à poser vos questions, partagez vos expériences et faisons ensemble que cette édition de NDDCamp soit un moment inoubliable. Alors, je vais le tester parce que je l'ai traduit en anglais. Je vais vous le dire en anglais. Le dernier mot, hein. Share your experience and together make this edition of NDDCamp an unforgettable one. Je laisse à Ben le soin de prendre la suite et de vous expliquer la suite de ces événements. Et
Merci,
de ces conférences.
Yves.
Bonne journée.
So, to finish this opening, please, Nico Caballero, GAG chair, for some words. Thank you, Nico.
Good morning, everyone. And I prepared a speech in order not to forget anything, given the fact that I'm naturally stupid and I tend to forget things, important things. So good morning, everyone. It is my great honor to welcome you to the NDDCamp Alsace. It's my first time here. I was supposed to be here last year, but I was reassigned to some other, to take care of some other issues with Brazil and Argentina and some other things. So I basically apologized here with my friend Benjamin. So this is a beautiful city for sure, Strasbourg. This gathering is a testament to the collaborative spirit that drives the DNS industry forward. As the chair of the Governmental Advisory Committee, that's the GAC, Governmental Advisory Committee, at ICANN, I'm particularly excited to be here today to discuss the future of the DNS system and the critical role that the next round of generic top-level domains, the GTLDs, will play in shaping that future. The next round of GTLDs represents a significant milestone, I would say, for the DNS industry. It is an opportunity to expand the digital landscape, to foster innovation, and to ensure that the internet remains inclusive, diverse, and accessible to all. However, this opportunity comes with great responsibility. We must ensure that the next round is conducted in a manner that prioritizes fairness, transparency, and accountability. One of the key elements of this process is the Applicant Support Program, ASP. Probably not that important in the European context, but certainly very important in the underserved regions of the world, or the global south, or whatever the term we might use to to refer to it. The ASP is designed to lower barriers to entry for applicants from underserved regions, as I said before, enabling greater participation in the DNS ecosystem. The program is not just about equity, it's about enriching the internet with diverse voices and perspectives. The GAC, the Governmental Advisory Committee, has consistently supported initiatives like the ASP, as we believe they are essential to achieving a truly global and inclusive internet. Another critical aspect of the next round is the application fees. Again, an important issue for underserved regions and for the underdeveloped world, I would say, depending on the geographic region you're located. The GAC has basically emphasized the importance of a fee structure that is fair and transparent. And we are committed to working with ICANN and the broader community, you in this case, and that's why I'm basically here, because as you may already know, the GAC, your governments, including the French government, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. You know, I'm in touch with Monsieur Jonas Roule, the French the French GAG representative, and with Mr. Henri Verdier, and we have some conversations about how to improve French, not improve, how to bring back, I would say, maybe that's the, how to bring back the French government to ICANN. So in addition to these specific initiatives, the GAC has identified several issues of importance, in quotation marks, that we believe must be addressed in the next round of GTLDs. These include the need for robust safeguards to protect public interest, the importance of addressing urgent requests in a timely and effective manner, and the ongoing need to strengthen, you know, the multi-stakeholder model that underpins ICANN's work, and thus, you know, the reference to bringing back the, you know, our good friends from the French government. So as we move forward, it is crucial that we continue to engage in open, inclusive, and constructive dialogue, and that's why I'm basically here. The NDDCamp Alsace provides an excellent platform for such discussions, and I encourage you know, all of you to share your insights and your experiences and ideas. Together, we can ensure that the next round of GTLDs not only meets the needs of the DNS industry, but also serves the broader public interest. So in closing, I would like to thank the organizers, very especially my good friend Benjamin Louis here, and Pierre Bonny, and you know, and the whole French team. And sorry if I forget somebody, but you know, my memory is not that good for. And for their commitment to advancing the DNS industry. I look forward to the discussions today and working with all of you. Thank you so much, and I wish you you know, a productive and inspiring NDDCamp 4th edition here in the beautiful city of Strasbourg. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nico. So you can stay here. You can stay with us. So the first roundtable is about the next ICANN round of new GTLDs. So for the roundtable, I will ask Monte to come on the stage as moderator. Then Arnaud FRANQUINET, Cédric MICHEL-FLANDIN, Chris Mondini, David Taylor, Glen de Saint-Géry, Nico, already on the stage, and Patrick HAUSS. I give you the mic.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Monte. Some of you may know me as the exporter and importer of the smelliest cheese in France last year after our wonderful wine tour. But besides that, I have a pretty long history in the domain industry. I've been around since 1994. I was one of the original founders of the industry, especially in the aftermarket. I was the first person to sell a domain name for between one party to another party. First person to sell a domain name for over $1 million. Started the aftermarket and brokerage and auctions for the entire industry. I do believe that domain names are like property, digital real estate, and that there should be a free and open market. And so the excitement of opening TLDs into new frontiers and introducing new types of top-level domain names are of great interest to me. I was around through all the additional TLDs from .biz and .info and .name and .pro, and of course in 2011 when we introduced almost 1,000 new top-level domain names into the industry. my company and my services provided some of the contingent resolution auction services for those that were competing in private to make sure that there was only one applicant for a top-level domain name. So with that said, this panel is of great interest to everyone because we're going to talk about the next round, what some of the challenges were from 2011, what we've learned through the process and through that whole initiative. As you may know, there's still top-level domain names being launched today from the round from 2011. Amazon just announced they're introducing .free and .hop and one other in an effort to get their top-level domain names out before the next round comes. So it's been very challenging. So I'm going to have everybody introduce themselves on the panels. Many of you know who they are. I think it's important that we start off with an ICANN perspective first. So Chris, you're gonna give a little bit of background about the process, what's going on, maybe an update from Seattle from an ICANN perspective, and then have everybody introduce themselves and what their specialty is, and then we'll dive right in. We don't have a lot of time, and there's a lot of participants. So with that said, we've already heard from you, but let's give a quick introduction, and we'll move down the line, and then.
So good morning again. My name is Nico Caballero, and I'm the chair of the GAC, Governmental Advisory Committee. You know, I have a software engineering background, which is why I still don't understand why they chose me, you know, as the GAC chair, because my diplomatic skills are absolutely less than zero, but for some reason, strange reason I still don't understand, they re-elected me, you know, for another 2-year term, which is kind of weird, but here I am.
You're like Donald Trump.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chris Mondini. I'm based in Brussels. I am leading the Europe region for ICANN organization and happy to be here to talk about these issues.
Hi, I'm Cédric MICHEL-FLANDIN, in charge of business development in Afnic. Very happy to be part of this panel. In Afnic, we manage 20 TLDs. So I'm based in Guyancourt for Afnic, but also we are based in all the French territories with .Paris, .BCDH, .Alsace, .Corsica. We manage as a TLD, and we also provide training, DNS activities, backend registry activities, and also consulting on DNS.
Hello, everyone. I'm Arnaud FRANQUINET. I have the pleasure to lead the Gandi group, a global registrar, doing a lot of business with the mass market, but also with the corporate domains, revenues, activities, business, sorry. We are based, I'm based in Paris, but I travel a lot in all the different offices in the US, Canada, France, Luxembourg, and Taiwan. And we have the third of our revenues based on the corporate business.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Glen de Saint-Géry. I'm a consultant in domain names, but before then, I was with ICANN right from its very start. And I left there in about 2018, joined a law firm, and now I'm on my own.
Hi, I'm David Taylor. I should say I'm sorry I'm English, and I should also say I'm sorry I'm a lawyer, and it doesn't get as bad as that. And I suppose I'm sorry I've been to over 50 ICANN meetings as well in my life, which was a milestone I hit, and I realized that meant I'd spent over a year of my life at ICANN, so that makes me sad as well. But there's a few sad people on this panel, so we're all okay on there. And I work at a law firm, Hogan Lovells. It's a big international firm, and I set up a domain name group many years ago. So we've been doing it for 20, 25 years, doing domain name registration management, enforcement, UGTLD advice, applications, and the various things that have followed since. So I quite like domain names.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really sorry. I have nothing to be sorry about. I'm Patrick House. I'm the general manager for CSC based in France, so for France and Switzerland. CSC is a corporate registrar. We are managing roughly 3 million domains only for big corporates, so like big brands around the globe.
Awesome. So as you can see, we have a very expert panel from legal to ICANN policy to registrar and registry. So Chris, I'm going to start off with you because everybody's interested to hear how many people in the room were in Seattle last week? Okay, great. So most of you were not. So I think it's important to give an update from the new TLD perspective and maybe a couple other important points about the process of the new TLDs, what's advanced since the last meeting to today. I heard there's a lot of progress made, and I know you're going to give a very high-level view, but I'm sure some people will have some questions. But maybe talk about the application process, what decisions have been made, when the new estimated time of release will be, those types of things, and then we can dive into some of the other challenges and opportunities for the industry.
Thank you very much, and I'm pleased to see that so many people were present at the meeting in Seattle. It always makes it easier for me because the detailed questions I know I can refer to many of you who follow them in a very detailed way. But as you mentioned, I would just like to make a couple of introductory remarks. I came down on the train yesterday, and I was using the Wi-Fi, and it was at wifi.sncf, so I have to say that's always a nice reminder of a useful GTLD. It made me smile to think that I was coming to this event and to speak with you, this wonderful community that's advancing this. I also am leading really the global efforts of the engagement team at ICANN to raise awareness of the GTLD program. And so, as opposed to last year when I appeared at this event, and actually other events where it seemed like I was always saying that something is about to happen, things are now happening. Two of the most notable things are that we have begun accepting applications for the applicant support program that Nico referenced for applicants that may be eligible for financial and other support. And also, importantly, the Registry Service Provider Evaluation Program. Those application windows opened in November, and happily, we have some initiated applications, over 30 for the ASP and over 40, nearly 45 for the RSP. And they're from every region of the world, which, again, given Nico's emphasis in his remarks on global exposure, I'm quite pleased with that direction. We'll see where it lands, and we'll see how it continues. But I think also the other point for this group is that because this started so much earlier, this was already in November of last year that we began, and by, so that's 16 months before the opening of the application window. There will be a lot of information in the marketplace, a lot of information for potential applicants, a lot of ways for business partnerships to be forged for the actual applications. As to the progress on policy issues, of course, we're implementing a community policy, and when I do engagement with businesses, of course, it's hard to explain to them, as you all well know, that there are still parts being worked out. But everything is on a good path, and if I get very specific questions on those, I may refer them to people in the audience that are following. Just the second thing I want to say is, as an employee of the organization, I'm really limited to talking about the program. And my team and I are not in a position to brainstorm on business plans or talk about the costs involved or talk about how to set up running a registry. And we're working, again, as opposed to the last round where we didn't take this into account very well. We're really relying on all of you and very grateful for those of you, whether it's through the registry stakeholder group of ICANN or the brand registry group or the GOTLD group. There's also the Domain Name Association, and they're working to make available platforms where experts can say, I'm here to help potential applicants. Because we need to once I raise awareness of the program and someone says, oh, I'm interested to learn more, how much does it cost? Or how do I run a registry? It's very important to have a way to, in a transparent, neutral, and fair way, link them to these experts. And so I can discuss more how to get involved, but I did want to say that the early efforts to do that are very promising, and I'm very grateful for the responsiveness of this group. Thanks.
Awesome, and I'm sure we'll have some additional questions, but Nico, let's move over to you because the GAC obviously plays a very important role in this process, and maybe bring up specifically in the last GAC sessions from Seattle what the main points were that were addressed, where you think you've come from the former meeting, and where do you think it's headed in terms of GAC recommendations for new TLDs back to ICANN, representing the government at large, obviously.
Thank you, Monte. And well, many things. Let me just begin by saying that the GAC is made up of 184 countries and 40 non-governmental organizations. So, as you can imagine, reaching consensus is not an easy job, whether, it's deciding to drink coffee or tea, and that applies to every single issue we discussed there. And by the way, we just welcomed Monaco. Is Monaco in the room? Monaco speaking, well. So the main points, and we have just published the ICANN 82 Seattle communique. We're not giving specific advice to the board at this point, because at the end of the day, what the GAC does is it gives consensus advice to the board regarding X, Y, or Z, right? This time around, for the second time in a row, we didn't give specific advice. We were just based on, past GAC communiques as regarding the follow-up to advice given before. But the main topics, as I mentioned before, were under issues of importance. The ASP program, as I mentioned before, and as Chris already mentioned, from the GAC perspective, the more diverse, the more inclusive, this round, the better for everyone, and very especially for the MSM, that is the multi-stakeholder model. Even though we just like Chris and his point of view, from an ICANN staff member, for governments, even though in some cases there are governments that have a direct relationship with the CCTLD, but in general we don't have like any kind of strong feelings about the new GTLD program, except for helping and doing whatever we can to the DNS industry within our countries. But we leave that to the private sector, to the commercial entities and to the people who run with the DNS from a commercial point of view on an everyday basis. We don't have that much to say there. We don't want to mingle, as a matter of fact, with the nuances and the details of running any kind of company, right? Especially in the DNS context. But in general, we give some guidelines from the point of view of the public interest. As a matter of fact, PICs and RVCs, public interest commitments and registry voluntary commitment. RVCs register. This ICANN is always, an acronym romance. So PICs and RVCs. PICs are public interest commitments, and RVC, registry voluntary commitments, are very important issues for the GAC. Let me also mention, now speaking of the devil, that SOIs are another very sensitive topic for governments around the world. SOIs meaning statements of interest, and from a very simple point of view is the way people in the room here, for example, identify as pertaining any kind of discussion we might be having about anything related to the DNS. But in the GAC context, every single person in the room, is clearly identified the country, the position, and whatever interests they might be representing. I'm not going to go into the details, but you can imagine the repercussions, that could cause from a, I'm not a lawyer, but from a legal framework, there are many different interpretations as to how to proceed when those SOIs are not very clearly stated. I understand, and I stand to be corrected here, but I understand that ICANN.org is already, not only ICANN.org, but many different constituencies within ICANN, they're basically working on defining not only the SOIs, but in general, I forgot the name, the Code of Ethics, some guidance, general guidance, I think it was Code of Ethics or something, but SOIs are going to be included. So many other things. I don't want to bore you. The GAC communique is online. You can just check it and you will see, our very specific opinion about every single issue. And that's the beauty of the GAC communique, that everything is in writing. And if I forget anything, you'll find it there. But more than happy to answer questions. I just try to concentrate on the main points, the main themes. But again, more than happy to answer questions or to engage in meaningful, hopefully, conversations. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Nico. So a couple of the big challenges that everybody knows from the last round was the contention resolution, when two parties compete for the same string, and how that was all resolved. Last year, or the last round, many of those contentions were done in private, and then ICANN had a last resort auction for those that were done through ICANN that people chose not to go through a private process. Another challenge was that a lot of the extensions filed for community applications when they had a generic name. Some corporate names were competing against each other, even though both had rights to trademarks. So our one big whiner on the panel, who was involved in two famous cases, one with .wine and one with .merc, is David Taylor. And so after being at 50 ICANNs, he's seen everything under the sun and under the sheets and on top of the sheets regarding brand protection and some of the legal issues. So I think it'd be very interesting to hear David's take on what happened with .wine and what happened with, since we are here in France, and what happened with .merc, which was a battle between a famous pharmaceutical and medical brand between the United States and Germany, right? Because these types of things are going to happen again, and I'm very interested to hear maybe ICANN and the GAC's interpretation of how it's going to be resolved this time around, so we don't end up in a 10-year lawsuit like we did over these cases. And then we're going to go into some of the private sector and how new TLDs, new extensions are benefiting the registries, registrars from a business perspective, and we'll jump into that in a minute. But I think it's important.
When you said I'm a whiner, obviously in English that means I complain a lot. So I was wondering where that was going at the beginning. I could talk a long time on .wine and .merc, so I won't talk on them. Maybe I'll just talk about .wine and come back to .merc if there's time. But we were involved heavily in both, and the .wine saga started with a GAC early warning. So there was an issue there for the wine regions of the world with this new .wine and this .van being proposed. There was 3 applicants. And I got involved originally just to do a dispute resolution policy to impose on the eventual winner of the application. And we sort of said, well, that's going to be difficult to impose it on anybody, especially as they're all in America, so they're not necessarily going to use our dispute resolution process, and what's it going to do? So it morphed into probably a 5 or 6 year battle to try and protect the wine regions of the world. So there was the 3 applications, all for .wine, all wanting it to be open, and also for .van, point van. And the interesting thing was, coming from America, where the geographical indicators are not protected in the same way, the argument was, well, we want to put champagne.wine out for auction. And my line was, but you don't want champagne.wine to be bought by the Russians and then selling anything other than champagne. That doesn't work, does it? It's just not right. And that's something I fundamentally believe in the TLDs and everything. I mean, we've got BZH here. If you're BZH, if you're Alsace, you've got to be in Alsace. You've got to be in BZH. If you're Bordeaux.wine, you're not selling paint. You know, you go to Bordeaux.wine to get one thing, and it's Bordeaux wine from Bordeaux. So that was quite a long battle just to get that through. And so we had a preferred applicant who didn't actually get in. There was another applicant got it, and then we ended up with a long, lengthy discussions and negotiations on that, and basically tying up the application within the ICANN process, working in line with the GAC. I remember some amazing meetings with GAC representatives from Europe, 2 o'clock in the morning. South Africa, several, yes, and just, but also the meetings we'd have, and I was just always amazed, because a lawyer, you're paid sometimes by the hour, but most clients like a fixed fee of nothing now. But in the old days, you used to get paid by the hour. But you're there at 2 o'clock in the morning with all these GAC reps, and they're passionate, and they're up there, and they're talking at this ICANN meeting at 2 o'clock in the morning. And so that side of things was fantastic for me. Anyway, one of the things we did was we filed reconsideration requests from several GAC members, and again, that was something which ICANN has said, no, but no country or GAC members ever filed a reconsideration request, and you're bound to lose. And again, we knew we'd lose, but the point was, well, we're going to file it because it just raises the issue, and it keeps it going, and it keeps it on the table, and hopefully we're going to come out with a negotiated solution. So it was one big negotiation. And then we were interested if it's a San Francisco meeting, ICANN meeting, and I remember we were going down, there was one line being driven that we have to sue in America, and it was like, that's going to cost a little bit of money, and I was very much against that. And then the other solution was, which was my solution, I have to admit, is why don't we get everyone round a table or several tables drinking wine? Wouldn't that be a good idea? So I arranged a wine reception in the San Francisco meeting, and we invited the board, ICANN board, the GAC members, the 3 applicants, the wine regions, and everyone then wanted to bring their own wine, you see, so there was going to be this big thing of wine. I said, no, we have to have American wine, because we're there, and we'll make sure that we discuss where the wines come from, which regions, etc. So it's just much more friendly, and everyone actually got round a table drinking wine and suddenly realized, yes, we're drinking wine from America, from this region, we understand the problem, and that's what it was, and that's where it moved on from. So that's the .wine saga, shall we say, which was quite fascinating, and possibly the best job any English lawyer could ever work on, liking wine and domain names. And
so the moral of that story is, get everybody drunk and you can get your problems resolved. That's good.
Maybe someone else would like to take something, and I can come back to Merck another time. Or
okay, well, these types of things, these top brands, trademark protection issues, these types of things makes it very challenging for those that are managing corporations and trying to advise corporations on what they should file for when they're getting a new TLD, if they're interested in that, or how they protect their brand. Imagine if you're a famous brand like an Amazon or Google, you have to cover yourself in 1,000 extensions now. That's really challenging. So as a corporate domain management company who faces these challenges both on what your applicant should file, and then at the same time how to protect all these extensions within your trademark, what happens in your neck of the woods? How do you handle that?
So I think there are many things we could speak about when it comes to big brands running for their .brand. I would say that probably things have changed quite a lot when we compare 2012 to now. I think 2012 we were a lot into this all these brands which were like real pioneers, not really knowing where they were going. I think there was a lot of discussions as well about defensive new GTLD application, basically, because some people were indeed very scared about getting their .brand, taken by any other third party. I think this has changed quite a lot, and when we speak about this upcoming round, I would say that I have this feeling that trademark owners, brands feels much more relaxed about the upcoming round. And I'm not surprised. I think in terms of communication from ICANN things have been, you know, pretty smooth since we've been, you know, speaking about the next round. And what I like to say is that basically, I think there's no need to run to be ready for the race. When we speak about April 2026, you know, we're waiting for the applicant guidebook. We know that the process is going to be easier, that the process is going to be smoother as well, with the pre-evaluation of the, you know, RSPs, with the associated cost with the for the specification 13 and these kind of things. Is $227,000 a challenge for a big corporation to own a piece of the internet? I don't think so. That's absolutely not the case. It's just about anticipating the next round. So I think in general things are, you know, going pretty smooth. The only thing I would say that right now, I would say that brands have like changed the way they are thinking about applying for a .brand. And we've done like 160 at CSC during the previous round, so that's quite a lot. And we already have like a lot of like, you know, interest from the brand community willing to apply for the next round. And I think that now people are really thinking about how they're going to be using a .brand rather than just, okay, we're going to apply and do a defensive registration. And I think the topic is a lot about the security posture that may improve applying and running a .brand, limiting your external attack surface as well. When we speak about cybersecurity is also an area, how we're going to be able to fight against phishing and all these issues that we have right now on the internet. I'm still a big dreamer when I think about .brands, and I wish we had a world where each big brand could have his own, you know, piece of the internet and communicating around how safe it is for a user, for a consumer to be using a .brand and, you know, getting into it and buying and engaging into a .brand. I think there's a real value in terms of communication, in terms of marketing. So yeah, I mean, lots of activity. I think lots of learning from the previous round. Lots of new stuff happening. Lots of new discussions. So I think that definitely the next round is going to be a great success for .brands. Are we going to go to the 30% application in 2026 for brands? I don't know. Probably yes. Maybe a bit less. Maybe a bit more. We'll see.
Awesome. So now we move into the registry kind of part of the program. Ahmad, Gandhi is a global registrar. You handle brand management also, brand protection. Yep. But in the last round, when basically 1,000 new top-level domain names came to be, as a registrar perspective, and I ran Moniker back in the early days, and when we introduced .info and .biz and .name and .pro and all the country code TLDs, it's quite challenging from a technical perspective, as well as trying to position all these other top-level domains and country codes with and against each other in terms of competitive shelf space. Some corporate registrars and some registrars like GoDaddy, for instance, have a pay-for-play model. You have to pay in order to get your name, even to be available to be registered on their platform now if you're a registry, which is kind of crazy. Give us kind of a background of the challenges you faced in this last round in 2012 and what you're anticipating for the next round, not only from a brand protection perspective, but how you're going to offer all these extensions to your customers and how you're differentiating that, because that's a big challenge.
Yeah. So on the corporate, well, I agree with Pratik. During the previous round, we are not very we don't have a huge presence in a corporate. But in fact, when we analyze the .brand, they are essentially on defensive and not having a real brand strategy. No, it's new. We know that we have with our clients. The mentality change, and they are more focused on how they can exploit how they can manage the dot brand with a more marketing vision, just using that for the security, of course, but also to have an authentic digital identity, a very strongful one. So it's pretty cool. We have a lot of possibilities with different clients on the corporate side. Coming back to the mass market, the challenge we faced before. Well, in fact, of course, you have some challenge on the technical consideration, but in Gandi, we don't sponsor TLDs. So we just put the TLDs on our search placement based on what our clients want to have. So, in fact, the base TLDs goes up because a lot of people are interested to have that. But otherwise, that's why we observe that certain TLDs, GTLDs are good, in fact, good application, or otherwise they are forgotten and people don't use them. But this is more the law of the market.
Right. So the perspective of a registrar, obviously, is a good TLD is one that gets a lot of registrations. Other people might have other opinions about the meaning of the TLD and how important it is for a community or a culture or a brand and so on and so forth, but definitely understand from a business perspective.
Exactly, and what we observe that the trends are different over the world. You don't have the same TLDs in the US, for instance, or in Europe or in Asia.
Right. Now, Afnic, you've become a back-end provider for many of the top-level domains. So here you were providing one .fr extension for the country of France, and you realized that your technology had benefits to provide the same kind of technology advantage and onboarding benefits for other TLDs. So you went into the market, diversified the company a little bit, went into the market and say, hey, we can use the Afnic program to launch a bunch of other top-level domain names and make it easy for the registry so they don't have to do it themselves. So walk us through that opportunity, how that came to be, and where you see yourselves in the next round for that.
Yeah, of course. In Afnic, we managed .fr from many years. And when in 2012, when the last round opened, it was more than natural to go on it because we said it, but Internet is a question of security, of user trust. And we had all the services. We also have a great services called Afnic Registry Services, and one of the best security platform on the market, with one of the best trust on the market we can provide. And I very agree with Patrick says. The next round will be a question of not of a protection on Pioneer. It's now a question with the next round of how we can go on it to use our TLD, if it is a brand TLD, if it is a geo TLD, and generic TLD, how we can improve our position on the market and how we can use it. So the question in Afnic is how we can accompany all our customers and all our new customers in this next round. We are very, very on the subject. We provide a working group which is called the Brand Circle, Cercle des Points Marques in French, since 5 years now, and we communicate a lot on the next round and with .brands. So we are very happy. BNP Paribas is in the room. He participates regularly to this panel, and we provide very good information to go on it and how we can go on the next one in fully trust to use their brand. And if you want to launch your geo TLDs, your generic TLD, how you can also go for it with the best trust and best security you can provide.
So do you... Sure.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I think when you speak about trust, I think it's extremely important for .brands, obviously, maybe for the GOTLDs as well. But when we speak specifically about dot brand, I think, and when we look at how internet is moving, how internet is growing, I mean, right now, I just have this like very weird feeling that we are going into an internet which is like very fake. AI, fake videos, and whatever we experience today. And I do see, honestly, an amazing future for dot brands and GOTLDs, because basically they are all like little islands where you can build trust with your consumers, because they're gonna have the guarantee that they're gonna be in a safe place, okay? And I think that's a very powerful message, especially as internet, is moving and growing right now. And I think we need to deliver this message as well, how beneficial for the users, for the internet community, all these new GTLDs can be. And I think it's, our job, all of us, to convey this message, because I think it's a really powerful message right now.
Agreed.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Completely agree on the dot trust, and that ties back to my original comment with dot wine. You've got to trust what you're getting at the TLD. But I think just following on Patrick and then saying about the difference between this round and the last round, and there is a large difference for brands, because we were working for brands, but when this was announced in 2008, and was year after year after year, and you're going around talking to brands, this new GTLDs are coming, these new GTLDs are coming. And every year it was, well, the next year, it'll be next year, it'll be next year. They are coming. And by the time 3 years had gone by, we'd probably lost 50% of our clients through boredom. And they just said, well, is it ever going to happen? And when it did finally happen, the main driving factor for many brands, I mean, and again, I'd just draw attention to this, most brands were opposed to the new GTLD program. I was in the ICANN meetings, and brands did not want new GTLDs. And it turned round to the other way. Once they were progressing, you had 661 brand applications out of 1,395. See how sad I am? Applications. So brands became, one of the biggest groups of applicants. But again, what was happening in the old 2012 round is there was no dot brand. It didn't exist. So brands would try to become a community, because then they could trump a standard application. So that was the thing. If someone's going to apply for my brand, I want to be a community, because I have a community of people who like my brand. So I want to get the community joker card and make sure I beat them. So again, everyone was really just looking at what if someone registers the same or applies for the same TLD, which is what Patrick was saying. And I used to say to them, no one's going to do that, because no one's going to pay $185,000 to try and get your brand. And you'll just knock them out in a contention set or in objections, etc. So the reason brands were looking at it was very different, and it was much more malleable, shall we say, whereas now it's very clear it's happening in April. I think ICANN will get that, that date right, and it's very clear, and there is a dot brand. So it's a different ballgame now, and there's also those 661 which people can look at and see what have they been doing. And many haven't been doing much, but some have been doing some great stuff. So there is, the path is there, and it's a very different scene today.
So raise your hand if you're in the room and you're one of the consultants that are advising either a new applicant or on new TLDs or getting accredited. So there's a handful. So Glen, you are now a consultant. You have ICANN history and background. This must be a very challenging time for you, just like the last round was as well, because now you're advising clients on what to do, how you participate, how come the fees went up for application, and all these things. I know you have some questions for the panel, but also you probably have a perspective, having been in ICANN since the very beginning. I think we actually met at the very first ICANN meeting a long time ago. So talk about that from a consultant perspective, how it makes your job challenging, but also kind of the opportunities there are for other consultants in the room on how to, prosper in this type of scenario, in this environment.
Thank you, Monty. Yes, I was just going to say with the dot brands, right in the beginning, before there was the dot brand, a group of people came together and in the ICANN community and said that they wanted to form a group for .brand to work on this. And there was a huge objection because the ICANN construction at that time said, no, we've got registrars and we've got registries, and there's no place for .brand. So out you go. You can't have ICANN, you can't have meetings at ICANN, you can't have any of the advantages being an ICANN member. So it took quite a lot of time to get this through. I don't know if any of you were in that group at that time. And eventually the .brands were accepted by the registry group, so they came under that little tag in the ICANN setup, which was quite interesting. And from there, of course, they have now, and I think it's probably one of the most secure ways of getting a new GTLD today is by a .brand. And I do hope that they're going to be very successful in this round. What are the important differences between the 212 round and the round that's coming up? And I think that success should be measured by registration volume, but it should not be measured by registration volume, but against business model, which includes community support, niche markets, and security goals or profits. And I think it's also very important for any company who is thinking of going in for a new TTLD is to get yourself in the company properly set up, that all parts of the company are in alignment, so that the finance part knows what they're doing, that if there's any innovation, everybody is in agreement with it, so that the whole group must be together. Because it's all very well, and in the last round, I won't mention any names, but new GTLDs were being worked on in a company, and then suddenly somebody would come up and say, oh, but I don't agree with that, with the way that you're going. And so nothing would come of it. It would, all the work that had been done would fall apart. I think that's probably one of the most important things. That everybody in a company must know from the beginning and work together on getting a new GTLD, because there's so many parts to it. It's not just an easy process. You already see you've got registrars and you've got registries. But I think the fact that you've got registries that are going to be approved this time makes it much, much easier than in the last time. The other big difference, I think, that will come along is the fact that via the applicant support program, you have put in a tremendous amount of work into languages. And I think that will open up, because the last round, I remember, was practically all in English. I don't know if you'll agree with me, but as far as other countries were concerned, it was almost, they were cut out, India, China, etc. However, I think it's important, and I'd like perhaps you to say something on this, Chris. In one of the meetings that there was in Seattle, we talked about the different languages and how you were going to get the applicant guidebook out in these different languages and the process that's going on. And you were actually criticized for that by saying that it was going to cost so much money that perhaps it wasn't worth it. I wonder if you would, perhaps just say something on that.
AI.
Thanks, Glen, for that. I was going to raise my hand to make a couple of remarks in reference to some of the things that you and the others have said. And if I can back up a little bit, I know many of our remarks have compared the forthcoming round with the last round. And I think it's important to remember that the team that I'm a part of, the global stakeholder engagement team, did not exist in the last round. And now we're 38 people in about 17 countries. And to the remarks about reaching out to the security community or chief marketing officers, or yes, even the geographical indications community, we are working, again, with many people here to reach out to them proactively about the promise of GTLDs, so that the first person that hears about them is not the defensive reactionary person that may not understand the broader picture. And again, the timeline is in our favor, because if, for example, pick your favorite geographical indicator, if one of them applies now and says that I'm going to apply for this for my wonderful agricultural product, then that immediately is showing that there is a positive use case there. And our team finds ourselves in this campaign in front of a lot of very diverse audiences. I'm speaking at cybersecurity conferences, digital marketing conferences, and again, this is fully a year in advance of the opening of the window. So hopefully, as Patrick and others and David have said, that this is also going to mitigate some of what we saw the last time. And Glen, to your point, we are very excited that we're seeing initial indications that there is demand from around the world. I'm going to ask everyone, if you haven't already, please visit the Next Round New GTLD website, because on the resources page, in all the ICANN languages, are all of the outreach materials that you'll need. We have, in the last month, also rolled out something called Next Round in Your Language, which is a demand-driven translation platform. It costs us nothing because we already have a license for an AI platform. And what it does is, and this is already, we have all of the outreach materials in Thai. Many of them are in German. And then the way it works is, if you would like it in your language, which is beyond the ICANN languages, you say, oh, please can I have this fact sheet in Tamil? And we produce an AI rough draft, and a volunteer reviewer on a wiki platform completes it, and then it's available with sort of a stamp saying where it came from for use in that local community. The question of the applicant guidebook is still open. I know there are some requests to make more translations of that, and because the the application itself ends up in English, so far we're translating all of the outreach and informational materials, but I will come back to you on how many of the official documents will get beyond the ICANN translations. But the other point, the reason for the criticism is somebody said, oh, how much is this costing? This is a lot of ICANN staff. Why are you doing this for the Tamil-speaking regions? And the fact is it's not costing anything new. We already had the license for this AI translation, and it is volunteer reviewers in places like Poland or that are just saying, okay, we would like the materials in Polish, we'll tidy up what the AI produces. Again, just two more things that are on the website, which you may like. In the Champions Toolkit, which are all of the slide decks that you can use to talk about the next round, there's also a speaker request form. And any member, anytime you're having an event and you'd like somebody from ICANN to show up to speak, especially if it's remote, we're happy to do so. I just got one. I'm speaking in Hamburg, I guess, in October. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is use cases or examples. We call them use cases, but a number of about 16, no more, I think, registries now are going up saying, here's the story of why we applied, here's how we're using it, here's the category. And again, if any of you know registries that would like to publish their use case, this is the most valuable tool to explain to people what it is, how you might use it. And then finally, I did mention the Domain Name Association, which is a nonprofit. It's been around for a while, but rather dormant. If you go to their website, thedna.org, and scroll down, already they're taking names of people who are willing to be publicly identified as experts, advisors, consultants, again, just sort of passively on a website for people we talk to, and then they start asking the business questions and we don't know how to answer them. So check out our Next Round website, please. Thanks for the question about the languages, which we're excited about, and please identify yourselves as willing to give advice if you can.
That's awesome. Anybody else want to add on the panel anything? And then I think we're going to open up to questions in the room in just a minute.
Just one thing.
Ask for the mic if you have a question,
Yep.
please.
Just to complete one thing.
Yes.
Very agree with Glen when it is when you said that it is many people project for the brand, especially the decision have to be taken by a lot of people in the companies, and things are going very well to be more smooth, as says Patrick, and more easy. But the big step you mentioned, Chris, is a guidebook. So the next guidebook in the next few months has also to be simple as possible, the more simple as possible, and to show that it will be easy to apply. And I think it's one of the big part of the success of the next round.
Yes, I will confess, I sat in on a number of the drafting sessions, and this is feedback we get from a lot of people. And I share the pain because I'm trying to describe this program as well. We're working very hard to develop kind of summary information that points to where the official language resides, but then again is something that can be used to decide how deeply an applicant or potential applicant may want to go. But this was very consistent feedback from Seattle, and believe me, we're taking it on board and working to make it as simple and accessible as possible. It won't be simple and accessible, but it will hopefully be a little better than the current state looks. And then finally, everything is on track. I heard somebody say it looks like we're going to meet the timeline. I have no indication that there is any issue with the timeline. So the applicant guidebook May is when the last draft or the last public comment should be. And so that should be enough indicative guide for people to start making plans and decisions, as we don't anticipate much more change before it's published later in the year.
Very good. Thank you, Chris. If there's anything that I did not cover that you guys want to ask, say, any point you want to make, please do so, and then I want to open it up for the audience to ask any questions. Is there anything else that I've missed? Any other points that are important for you and your businesses and your spectrum? Please say it now or hold your peace. Okay. Questions in the audience. Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Venki. I'm a consultant for registrars and registries. I have a question here for the expert panel here about the next round of new GTLD. So from what I see in the past round of new GTLD, like there are three categories, I would say, of brands who got their new GTLD. Some of them actually just surrendered and terminated them because they didn't find any value in keeping them. Some of them tried to do a rebranding to the new GTLD and they pushed back into their .coms, and some TLDs, like in France, I know E.Leclerc, they did a really huge rebranding of their entire business with the new GTLD, and in India there is a bank called SBI, they also did the same, and they were actually successful with it. But what is your opinion on this thing from the past round, how brands actually struggle and why some of them really surrendered it back? And will this affect any brand's perspective, or will it demotivate the brands in applying for the next round?
So anyone want to take that? So I think some of the main points were a lot of brands abandoned their TLDs after so many years. Why did that happen? Is it scaring off any other brands? Was it because of not being prepared, not understanding what the landscape looked like, and also what made some of the more successful brands more successful?
I was going to say, Monte, you just answered the question there. I think you've covered quite a few of the reasons. I think
I'm not even into my wine yet.
Exactly. No, I mean, I remember going around talking to over 50 clients in a period of about 2 years. And I used to go in the morning and I'd try and get to meet some key decision makers, and I'd either have the in-house lawyer, the in-house paralegal, or the head of marketing. And I'd talk to them, and then finally get some other people for lunch. And you'd be able to have lunch, and you'd have a discussion. And then suddenly, the brand guy realized that there might be an opportunity, and it wasn't just a defensive. The marketing person was all over it. The tech guy was, there's some security aspects here. I wish someone had told me. I'd have come along to this meeting early this morning. So then it changed. And generally, I'd have a really good afternoon of about an hour with some key decision makers. And I thought, great, I've got this nailed. They understand it. I've done my job well. And they'll apply. But they didn't. And then I'd go somewhere else and do exactly the same scenario, and it would be some ridiculously long company name. And I'd be saying to them, you don't really need to apply. It's not that cool. You know, it's like .AXA is cool. It's AXA. .Balfour BT. Just saying that out there. So it's not that cool a domain name. And then they'd go and apply. So obviously my advice was just absolute pants, rubbish. And you just didn't know. But I think the main thing that came out of that is a lot of brands were applying for the wrong reason, and they didn't know why they wanted it. They just didn't want someone else to get it, and they thought that they had to do it. And then when they realized they'd got it, they didn't really want it after a year. The other thing was the process took so long that the people who had done the application had invariably left the company. So somebody else got hold of it and thought, what do I do with this? Who did this, and how much is it costing, and what's ICANN charging us, and what are we using it for? Nothing. So that's why they dropped. And I think that's the big difference now is you have had that 661 brands and some 500 are being used. They're not being used massively, but some are. But at least you've got something you can look at and say, right, we can see this as a stepping stone to where the future can go. And as Patrick rightly says, this future has to be trust.
Any other questions?
Hello, my name is Yudo, for the record, from Pandi.id registry, Indonesia. So coming along the way from Indonesia to here, we opened a booth in CloudFest yesterday, and while we are here, we attend the NDDCamp. I would like to ask a question for the Afnic, because as we know that Afnic is actually not only the CCTLD for France, but they also operate CCTLD for other French collectivities as well. And also as a backend, as a registry operator for several GTLDs, as we know from your website. So I would like to ask how you balance the policy, or also the system might be, because as we know that each CCTLDs, they have their own policy, and ICANN seems just let them to have their own policy. But on the other hand, the GTLDs, actually the policy is managed by ICANN. So on one hand, you are a CCTLD, but on another hand, you are also a GTLD registry operator. So how you manage the policy and also the system? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Of course, with regarding ICANN and regarding the GAC, a CCTLD is not obliged to be comply with all the standard rules of the GTLDs. But the important thing is that the GTLDs, and when Afnic launch the GTLD services, it serves a lot .fr with to be more standard with the rules of the internet. And we try to keep the rules, as I said, with secure rules and also trusted rules. So we try to homogenize the rules between the GTLD we manage and the .fr also we manage. And today I can say that there is not so big difference between the CCTLD rules and also the GTLD rules. But I don't know if Pierre, you want to complete the answer, or?
Thank you very much. Just to thank you very much, not to be too long. First of all, Afnic is not a GTLD registry. We are a CCTLD registry and a GTLD backend, which is slightly different. This is the first thing that is very important. And the second thing is that as a CCTLD operator with more than 4.2 million domain names in France. We have to be compliant with the French law and the contract that we have with the government. And it happens that technically the contract that we have with the government is even more specific and challenging than the rules that ICANN applies technically to most of the GTLD. So this part is in a way easy. The other part, which is more the contractual part and the fact that we have to sign with people who are signing with ICANN, is more tricky for a traditional CCTLD operator.
So while you have the mic, a really important question, because I was speaking to my homie from .nl last night, and they've seen a competitive decrease in .nl registrations because of .com and some of the other new TLDs. What challenge do you face as a .fr provider, representing the country code, when you have all this other competitive offering going on, and how does that affect the community at large in France in general, but as a business standpoint? Because it's a fair question, because you've now opened up a back-end registry business to make money from other TLDs, but at the same time you could be jeopardizing some of your own country code customers. How do you face that challenge?
No, thank you very much for this question. And this is a question we had in our boards 10 years ago already. And what we have faced is, since the new GTLD have appeared, the growth of FR has risen. In a way, what we think is that we are not targeting the same public, the same customers. And I would say that it's very important that we have new GTLDs, but for some end users or some customers, it still is a little bit confusing when you have 1,000 new GTLDs. And in a way, it's good for CCTLDs, because this is in the old pot that you do the better soup. You rely on something that is known, legacy, etc., etc. So there is not too much at this point. Of course, if we had the .France, which is totally forbidden, don't dream about it, that would be a problem for .fr. But if you have the .shoes, people are going to register first chaussures.fr and not .shoes.
That's a good point. And being in the aftermarket side of .com sales and auctions and things, the .com, OGs, I would call them, which I'm one of, would say a lot of times that .com is now rising in value because of all the other TLDs, because it's a well-known brand, and so on and so forth. My other side of the opinion is, on the .brand side, is I would rather end my email and my brand name and my advertisement with my .brand versus a .com, which is a generic, non-dictionary term, because you want that brand to stick in their brain on every email, every communication, every advertisement. So if you end something with .bmw and dot everything, it's part of advertising 101, and that's, I think, one of the big advantages for .brands to go after their top-level domain names, whether they're making it for money or brand recognition or just for protection. It's always better to end in that .brand name or that .whatever name versus .com from a mindshare perspective, if you think about it. I mean, .com obviously has some legacy support because it was the first commercial TLD out there, but it's just my perspective. Anyway, any other questions?
I'm very happy to know that with .Alsace, I soon will be an old soup very soon with the next round. Joe.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for coming out. I'm Joe Alanya with IT.com Domains. We're going to become an RSP, actually, in that process. Yesterday at CloudFest, they had the 45th birthday of the first domain registered.
40th, yes.
Oh, 40th, I'm sorry. Symbolics.com. And I guess this question is really for Chris and maybe for Nicolas. you know, for all those years, we have followed a practice of first come, first serve. And I think it also happened in the 2012 round. Right now, if I want to buy, I'm just going to use a couple examples I looked up real fast. If I want to buy auto, something in .auto, something in .autos, the plural, okay? And then also in .cars, okay, the singular or plural, I see prices of, you know, $3,000 or $4,000 a year. And the reason I believe that's going on is because only one registry owns those three. One of them, the singular or plural of car, I don't know if it's car or cars, is only about $20. And the reason that is happening is because of competition. So I'm curious why we've broken, 40 years of protocol in the new round. And maybe I'm just looking for insight of why that happened, because I'd like to help people apply for singulars of some of the plurals that were filed for and some of the plurals of singulars. And this year, it looks like ICANN decided we don't do first come, first serve. We now, sort of, I don't know, I think it is harming the competitive nature of the domain system. So I'm curious of the reasons for that.
So it's a good point, because that was quite a challenge in the last round, was singular, plural, the same word. How's that being addressed this year? I think is the main point, and and what was learned from the last round regarding that.
This is one of those questions where I'm sure that others here in the audience are following it much more closely. I will just preface it by saying, competitiveness, consumer choice are all behind the impetus for this program and process, and I do know it continues to be an issue, but I'm seeing a friendly hand in the audience, so please.
Yeah, this is Sebastian Ducos, and participant in the GNSO and etc. So unfair to put it on Chris, because Chris, with all his good work, is not a decision maker. We are. The community is. And on this particular decision, it's actually the community that decided, the incumbents, the people that have had TLDs for the last 12 years, that wanted to protect their market, wanted to make sure that nobody else was going to ride on their coattails and ride on 12 years of marketing, developing a TLD, and blocked it. And it's us, it's the community. And it's the whole game with ICANN, watching it happen and coming to conclusions that the decisions were wrong is too late. You need to participate, you need to be there, and you need to be in. For the little details, actually happens to be close friends of yours, ex-colleagues of yours, that defended that. Identity Digital was very much part of it to defend a market against possibly, a lot of good reasoning from, I've heard you say the same thing in Seattle last week. But it's it. It is the incumbents that decide it. It's the community of incumbents that decide, and it's very much the ICANN play.
So it goes somewhat to like a misspell in a keyword to the misspell or the confusion in a plural extension. That's kind of where it is and where it came from. So the cars, car, auto, autos, the different variations of words. So how many legal variations? There's .law, .legal, .abogado, Esquire, right? So there's 5 legal sectors also, which are not plural and singular, but different meanings of the same word. That's also customer confusion a little bit, because you think well, is it a .com or does it go by .legal or is it .law, or what's the natural extension that goes with his particular practice or his name. These are all really confusing things in the last round, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot more with the introduction of Web3 names that are out there already this year, like Crypto.com and all these people that think they have the rights to .crypto and .bitcoin and whatever. We're going to have this same kind of challenge with some of the new frontier that we're crossing as well. So maybe you can speak to a little bit of that from that standpoint.
I was just going to add, obviously there was confusion in the first round, and we saw it with contention sets for instance, .hotel, .hotels, .hotels, etc. So there were various applications allowed, and they were put in the same contention set, and that cost a lot of money to get out of. So we were involved in that in one of those, etc. So you can see why it's there, and I think it's arguable both ways as to whether it should or shouldn't.
It's there to keep his law practice alive. That's why. And many
Monte,
others.
I
Yes.
just want to add just one last thought on that topic. So you guys know I love being part of the ICANN community, and I do support ICANN fully. I only brought that comment up not just because of my own interest of being able to help applicants, but I also think it's kind of shaky ground for this community because if we abandon the principle of competition, I think it can be harmful to us as a community. So I just
of course.
I think we.
It's
need to be
very
careful.
valid.
We're
and
treading on very thin ice when we start to do things that abandon competitiveness, especially when we're collaborating to abandon competitiveness amongst our community and within our community. That's a dangerous place for us to go, and I just wanted to make that us aware.
And the crazy thing is that the broad public doesn't even know what channels to contact regarding these issues. We've been in this industry for many years, obviously, and some are new. Some have been here since it ever started. But the broad public doesn't have a clue on who they should speak with, what their opinion is, and I know ICANN's doing a great job in making themselves a public interest, public trust, and making sure that everybody knows what's going on. But the fact of the matter is, probably 90% of the population doesn't even know what to say or what to do or how to even express their opinions regarding this matter. So we're kind of making decisions for other people, and it doesn't agree with everybody all the time.
We are a little bit late, so two last questions, Thomas and then Sébastien.
Hello, bonjour. First of all, thanks for the great panel. So I used to work at a registrar for 10 years, so I very much know the bottom-up approach you have to take if you want to sell top-level domains, especially the new ones. And so I talk to developers, I talk to engineers, and then actually they use those domains. And I'm also on the Internet Committee of Inter. And the past 2 years when I went to Inter events, the leadership event in Houston, the AGM in Atlanta, and I talked to lawyers about the new round, they all know about that, okay, .intel was dropped, .mcdonald's was dropped for several reasons, but most of the reasons was costs. So my question is, I know a lot of people have comments here, okay, but I'm actually going to ask a question. My question is, how can we drastically remove the application fees? Because when I was having a panel at the CP Summit in Paris last year, we made a suggestion, and afterwards the fees were increased by 100,000. So my question is, how can we drastically increase? I don't know who of you wants to take those questions, okay, but how can we drastically decrease the fees for applicants?
Sébastien?
One easy way is to wait another 2 years. So the application cost is based on cost recovery. That was rule number 1 of the application system. Hopefully, if we don't change the game completely for the following application, which I hope was going to be in no more than 18, 24 months after the April 26th round, hopefully that cost recovery will be largely already taken care of. And the only thing that we'll have to pay for is the marginal cost of running an application, which should be, from what we see has been shared by ICANN in terms of cost, about half of what it is in 2026. Again, it's incumbent on us, the community, not to reinvent all the rules, pushing ICANN into redeveloping all the systems and being able to reuse. But I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, some people would say that the cost of the application should be going down since last round because we should be more efficient. We should have learned a lot more about the process and the procedure. There was a lot of money acquired by ICANN during last resort auctions, and where all that money went, there's going to be a lot more this year. Since there's not going to be any private auctions, ICANN's going to get the benefit of any contention resolution auctions. So hopefully those costs go towards the greater good of the internet and everything that we're trying to do here as a community and as business operators in the space.
Last question.
Sébastien Bacholet, President de Euralo Chair, representing the end user. If you have people who don't know where to address those questions and are end user, please refer to me. We are, within the ICANN system, the one doing the voice of the end user. And we are in a structure where it's multi-stakeholder. And fortunately, it's not just the registry and the registrar who take all the decision. And the government are part, but end user also are part of. If I can remember you that the co-chair of the program who define, of the group who defines the program of this round of TLD was coming from my community. Therefore, we were very involved. And I just wanted to say something about the plural. We speak in English. Plural, it's easier because we heard the plural. If I told to you about ta voiture, ma voiture, and nos voitures, you don't see the difference, but there is a difference. One is singular, and the third one is plural. Therefore, for end user, it's very important that there is no confusion. And the confusion when it's discussed in English, we are in trouble, because in other language, it's quite different. And it's why it's important the decision taken by the group, by ICANN, to decide not to have plural and singular for the same type of TLD. Just life, it's not just to be sure that we have more and more and more. Sometimes it's to have better. Thank you.
Awesome. So I think that's the last question.
It's
Krista.
Sorry, just a quick comment. It's Krista from TLDs, and I was the leader of Work Track 1. And in Work Track 1, we did discuss a refund policy based on the break-even point. So what should happen is if the volume is exceeded so that ICANN breaks the break-even point, there is a refund that comes back. So if they exceed, I think the estimated volume right now, minimum was 1,000. If, let's say, 3,000 comes back in, then instantly a refund is going back to all those applicants. Not instantly, but it's broken out, so there's a proportion that should be refunded and not going back to, say, sitting in a pot at ICANN. It goes back to the applicants.
Okay, awesome.
Oh, thank you, Can. Just one comment. The GAC, I mean, governments in general are not in the business of establishing, minimums or commercial strategies in general. We leave that to the private sector, of course, and that, depending on the country, depending on the region, depending on many different things, the same way each government deals with the CCTLD and how they approach. In general, there's a positive approach as regarding the next GTLD round, helping their local DNS industry and so on and so forth. But one comment though that, from a philosophical point of view, and this is not Kantian philosophy or anything like that, but especially regarding the grant program and the proceeds from the 2012 round, I think we're talking about $220 million, $230 million, and the way and the speed at which the whole thing is taking place, is a little bit concerning for the GAC in terms of the timing, because so far, and specifically from a public interest point of view, it would take like 20 to 25 years at this pace if the if things are going to be like this during the next let's say, I don't know, hopefully I'm wrong, right? But if at this pace it would take like 20 years to use the remaining funding. I think we're talking 210 million or something.
More is coming.
And more is coming. So again, we don't go to that level of detail. It's more like high level, but it's got direct impact on how things actually go, not only for businesses, but also for end users and companies and so on and so forth. So, it's kind of difficult to be the elephant in the room, but, any little thing you do might have a huge impact, and that's why it's so difficult to reach consensus among the 184 countries. I mean, France has an opinion about many things, including, you know, wines and obviously other things. The US, you know, and other countries are complicated. But I just wanted to point out that the bottom line is the public interest. And an example is the grant program.
Thank you, Nico. Well, I hope this session was very valuable. We covered a lot of topics, a lot of valuable insight from our experts, and I'm sure everybody's available for questions after the fact, and I know we're running a little bit behind. So,
thank you, Monte.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, we are a bit late, but we have 2 roundtables right now.